Okay, so at this point, we just finished in the last video warping this sample. So we've got the sample here. Very simple. What we want to do now, or what I want to do, is to create a basic drum pattern. Okay, so the point of making this drum loop is to have a rhythm over which I can flip this sample. The drum loop doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, I'm going to make something very simple. So first step is to open a MIDI track, which I already have right here, but I'll go ahead and do that for people who might just be starting out with this program. I'll hold down Shift, Command, and T, and that opens a new MIDI track for me. I'm going to hit Command R, and now I can rename this. I'm going to call it drums for now. Then I go over here to Instruments, and I select a drum rack. I'm going to drag the drum rack down onto that track, and here I have an empty drum rack. Now I have to fill up these empty cells here, or drum pads, with the drum sample that I want. In this case, for this tutorial, I already have some samples laid out. I pulled them from a folder that I have called Favorites, and I'm more than likely going to use this kick. Yeah, this one here. So we'll put that there, and then I've got a snare. I'm going to put the snare here. Now, for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to keep this drum loop, for now, a simple kick snare pattern. Okay, so, and by the way, I have this drum rack MIDI mapped. I'm using my typing keyboard actually at the moment. Now, one thing to keep in mind when you use a drum rack, it's full of a bunch of these individual little samplers. So each sound, when you click on it, it'll immediately go to that particular sampler that the sample is on. So the kick sound is going to pull up the sampler that the kick is on. That means that each sound is going to have its own parameters that need to be adjusted because of that sampler that it's assigned to. So for instance, this kick, what I want to do is turn this velocity down. Obviously, when you're making something more intricate and more complex, you might want a little bit of velocity, because velocity actually adds character to the beat and gives it a more realistic feel, because when a drummer is actually playing drums, he's not hitting the drums at the exact same velocity every single time he hits it. He's hitting them at varying velocities, softer and harder, etc. Oftentimes I do like my kick drum sample to hit at the same velocity every time it hits. That's just me, but in this case I'm just going to set it like that. I'm also going to put the volume, it's default at -12, I'm going to put it up to 0. And snare, same thing. I'm going to turn the velocity all the way down, and I'm going to put the volume up to 0 for now. Just kind of hear what that sounds like. I actually feel like the snare at 0 volume is going to be a little too hot, so I'm just going to back it off a little bit. And bear in mind, eventually later on, I am going to probably go into these individual samplers within the drum rack and make adjustments to them. Maybe change the pitch around, maybe change the sustain, decay, release settings. For now though, I'm just going to create this pattern. So I know that I'm going to start off with just a 4-bar pattern. So I'm going to highlight 4 bars. Again, you can see all the counting up here. All these numbers, these are signifying the bars. So I'm going to select bar 1, bar 2, bar 3, bar 4. And then I'm going to hit Shift, Command, and M. And that creates a new MIDI clip for us. Okay, once that MIDI clip is created, we can double click on it and we can see the piano roll down here. Piano roll is where, if we want to, we can write in our notes by double clicking them. Or you can hit the B key on your keyboard, and the B key pulls up your pencil tool. The pencil tool, you can just click once and change it around. You can also use this to change the velocity if you want to draw in the velocities of these things. So it's just a quick little tool for beat making, for accuracy and whatnot. However, at the moment I'm not going to use it because I'm actually going to just play in a simple little beat using the keyboard. We will come down here. I will get off the pencil tool by hitting B. I will hit Command A to select all and then just hit delete. Now all of those are gone. Since I'm just going to work on this little 4 measure pattern, I'm going to loop it. So as it's selected right now, yellow highlighted, as you can see, I'm going to hit Command L, and that puts this loop bracket here right above it. Loop on and off button is right here, so I will turn that on so that it loops for me. Over here I have this set up to, you click this tiny little arrow next to the metronome and you can adjust your count in. So I have it set to a 1 bar count in, which means it's going to click for 4 beats and then it'll start recording. So let's just try out a little pattern right here. Bear in mind, if you mess up, you can go back in right here to the piano roll and move things around and change things all you want. I'll probably end up having to do that. Alright, so let's lay this down. As you can see, the cursor as it moves along is recording over the notes that I just played. That's fine. They're actually still there. This is just one of the functions of recording in MIDI. You can set it to where it'll loop over and over and those notes will stay there and you can add notes to what's already there. But in the particular way that it's set up right now, it's actually just recording virtually, here I'll show you actually. If I drag this over here, all those notes are still here, they're just underneath over here. And there's our loop. Okay, so then what I usually do after that, I just kind of go in here and take a look, see if there's anything I want to manually move over. I can move notes around in the piano roll here. If I see something that, it looks like all of these beats that I played are all, if you notice, they're all like a little bit ahead of the beat. Some of them are behind, and a lot of them are ahead. So I kind of like to experiment with things like that by looking at what the majority of them are doing and seeing that the majority of them are ahead, and then finding the little outliers of the group, the ones that are not ahead, and then moving them ahead and seeing how that feels. So like these guys, this one here, these two are both sitting behind where they should be. So I want to kind of move them, scoot them forward a little bit ahead of where they should be actually, and see how that sounds. Now to do that, all I have to do is select these guys, and then I click on them with the mouse. I hold the mouse clicked down, and then I also hit the command button and hold that down, and that will temporarily bypass the grid. So I can scoot it without any regard to the grid and where the grid is. So I'm going to scoot this just a hair before the beat. This one too. This little one right here. Let's see here, this one here. Now it's very important that when you're doing this maneuver, while you're scooting notes around, regardless of the grid, you're sliding it over the grid, you have to do it in the right combination. So first you click the note with your mouse and hold down, and then after that you hold down the command key and slide. If you do it backwards, and you hit the command key and then click, what happens is this. As you can see, the velocity. It changes the velocity, which is not what we're trying to do. If you click the note with the mouse and then you move it without holding down the command key, then it's going to lock to the grid lines. Now you can slide it a little bit around, but more or less it's gonna nudge to the grid. Okay, so let's just give this a quick listen. I think these two notes that I moved over at the end are a little too soon. So I'm going to move them back in the direction that they were in, to the right. Okay, so that's cool. I like that. So one other cool little technique that I like to use here in Ableton is quantization. I'm sure you all know what that is, but there's a feature in here that I like to use in particular. I'll show you real quick. We click down here in the piano roll, we hit Command A to select all of our notes. We right click on the piano roll to get our menu here. We go to quantize settings, and in here you adjust what you want it to quantize to. We're going to have our grid be 16th notes, and then here is the cool part. So 100% is going to make sure all these notes snap directly onto the grid, and if you bring it down to 0%, it's not going to do anything. So we want somewhere in the middle. If I put it around 35, maybe let's do 40%, then it'll actually take all these notes and it'll move them towards the grid position of a 16th note quantization, but it won't put them exactly on the grid. So when I do this, if you look down here at these notes, when I hit OK, you can actually see them move, although it'll be just a tiny little minuscule amount because they're not actually, snapping to the grid completely. So check it out. So you probably saw that little tiny shift in some of these. Let's go ahead and listen back and see what it sounds like. Perfect. Sounds cool. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, comment. On the next video, we will complete the drums, add some hi-hats, and some swing.